Okay, call the meeting to order. No citizens, I don't think.
No citizens.
Oh, do you want to do a roll call or do you have us?
Sure, I'll do roll call.
Okay.
Commissioner Dunn,
Present.
Commissioner Crosby.
Here.
Commissioner Havda is absent. Commissioner Carey.
Here.
Commissioner Workington.
Here.
Commissioner Munns is absent.
Okay. The next thing is approve the minutes from the December 14th meeting. Do I have a motion? To approve?
I'll make a motion.
Scott, approve. Second,
I'll second.
Ryan? All those in favor? Aye. I do have a couple questions, though, after now that they're passed. They passed.
Okay.
So, because I noticed they weren't on the agenda, because, you know, you sent us out,
the
what do you want on
minutes?
the agenda, but we don't have the minutes yet, so.
Oh.
So one of the things was, I just wanted to be sure, I know you guys are pretty into the budgeting process. We had recommended putting the two projects in this year for the traffic study regarding the turning Jeremy Lovelace into a one-way street and Copeland Road speed control study. Are those in the budget?
I thought it was also the 6th. I guess I missed, no, I don't know about the Copeland Road one. You mean at Shafford?
No, the Copeland Road coming down Copeland,
Mhm.
where you turn on to Hillway Cemetery, that intersection there.
Okay, I don't have that in the budget. I thought it was the Jeremy Lovelace and Broadway and 6th, but I'll make a note of that too. So
Okay,
that was an official recommendation.
yeah.
Good.
So, you know, knowing that some of the things that we've added on to projects before that didn't make sense to me, but that Kurt said it was perfectly fine not to go out for bid if you add it on as a, like the second part of that, one of them being the parking lot for the library with Broadway. And couldn't we tack on the Jeremy Lovelace, whatever we have to do there with the Main Street project, and maybe cut down on the cost of doing it if we do it with them?
Jeremy Lovelace is in such a bad condition right now, isn't it? I don't know that, I mean, we'd have to completely redo the street from what I understand.
I'm
So,
just saying to make it a one-way. I'm not
Oh.
saying to improve the street at all. That I
Well-
think we were just talking about making it a one-way is what our recommendation
Mm-hmm.
was, not, we didn't realize, because I think in the budget, it was a very minimal amount.
right, yeah, so I can do this, I can do the study on what we would need to make it a one-way. But I hesitate to say we could actually do it because I don't know, can you just paint lines on, oh, I don't know what it would be.
Sure you
But
can. I mean,
On
like
alligator roads, I mean, I don't know if we would do that. I have to do the study, so I can put the study in and then find out, but I don't know that we would tag it on the Main Street because we're so far through it right now. It would.
So when is Main Street supposed to be done?
And then, let's see, it's supposed to be done in another month.
Oh, okay.
Well, there'll be some hang-on things that, right? The trees, the,
Trees and the light posts, just from a buying standpoint, everything's still backlogged.
Mhm.
So that's all we're waiting for. And I think we're waiting on irrigation box, like the
Okay.
pedestal on the
Oh,
side.
so just little.
It's
things.
just a little
Yeah.
hangups. It's the paving's
Mhm.
supposed to happen quickly. I'm not gonna give a date, but
Yeah.
within probably a month.
How much was the study? How much did you budget for the study?
I don't know how much
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
put in there yet.
Oh, okay.
But I do need to put one also because the Traffic and Public Safety has recommended a 4-way stop, and it's in other plans for Broadway and 6th. And so I need to figure out like how much I can do. If I can do something this year, I'll do it this year. If we have some funds left over, it was like $8,000, I think, just to do the 3rd and Main Street study. So
Mhm.
I need to finish talking
Okay.
to John Bosket and
Okay.
figure out how to do that.
And then also in the minutes, it said we wanted to have a discussion regarding Shafford Road, adding to update the street to meet minimum standards now. Can we put that on the next one? Because that it will be a discussion on that. Okay. And then the master plan, water master plan. This one said that the draft would be coming by their next agenda, but that was in December. Is it almost done or?
Yeah,
We'll
so
see it.
this is part of the water management and
Okay.
conservation plan is the first part of the water master plan. So we'll complete this and then they're supposed to get the rest of the master plan to us by the end of May.
Perfect. Okay. Anyone else have any questions about that? Okay, water management and conservation plan. Take it away.
Oh, okay. I am sure you've all had a chance to read this. I want to go over the things that we kind of objected to and they're going to be working on and then we can get your guys's input too. So the first thing, oh, first of all, let me share my screen so that Gary can see this.
Thank you.
Okay. One of the first things that we objected to was the population. So if you see here, they have the projected population for 2023 as 5,098, and I believe we're at 5,750. So obviously the numbers are a little off. I think that Amy said they got these numbers from the wastewater study, and I know that Sean got the numbers from the wastewater study, from the housing needs analysis. So obviously between then and now, we have grown faster than we had expected to. So we asked Amy to go back and readjust these, the population projections, and that will also change the projections for the amount of water we're going to be using. So the demand that goes alongside that.
And those numbers weren't in what we received.
So these numbers right here are what you received, but we don't have the new numbers yet.
okay.
So, yeah. So some of these are things that might take a little longer than she had expected just because of where we're at, such as, you know, installing the 10-inch, is that one, this one? The 10-inch water meter might not be until 2025, the end of 2024. I know Chris was thinking that that would probably be a winter project.
Yeah, it has to be a winter project. It's already too late in the year. This year to get that completed before summer.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping this fall.
And then we are still under contract with Steve Donovan. So he can, if council so chooses, direct us to, we can direct him to look at the alternative blocks for summer water consumption. So where we would have like a base minimum and then usage above that in the summer would be charged at a much higher rate to kind of discourage that heavy watering. I think that some of the things that were kind of a surprise to us was when we go down here to the leaks. I am zooming through this. Sorry, Gary.
That's okay.
What page is that?
The leak. Let me get there. It is on page 9. Yeah. So based on this, we have about a 5-year average of a 37% water loss. And if we scroll down to the graph right here, you can see we have considerably higher water loss in the summer than we do in the winter. So winter water loss is probably related to actual leakage. Summer water loss we're estimating is related to theft.
I have a question.
Yes.
Questions. Yeah. So we stopped selling bulk water cells in 22. How did 23 look after, since you went a whole year without them? Did it improve?
And we just stopped this summer, like right at the end of summer, right?
Oh, this says it discontinued it in 22 in the report, so maybe you need to change
Okay,
that.
yeah, I'll make a note to edit that.
So it was 23.
They were
You stopped it.
taking it in 23.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Say
okay.
10.3.
So if that's on page E2.
But that won't have any, that's metered water. So that won't come up on the water loss.
So my question is, are all the fire hydrants locked to prevent unauthorized use?
No.
Are any of them locked?
No.
How much would it cost to do that? I mean, it would, if it would, what, would
I
it,
don't think it's like that kind of theft. I think it's contractor theft.
okay,
uh,
so to walk us through when a contractor starts to build
Yeah,
and,
so when they lay out a neighborhood, when they get to the water line aspect of it
Mhm.
and they start building water mains, they put the water main in the ground, they get hydrants, they do all that stuff, they're flushing the mains. Then they have access to these pipes, and I think what's happening is they're hooking into their hydrants and just filling their trucks. And since we have it in the summer, I think it's majority of it's coming from Verde Hills area and stuff, and they're just,
so could we put locks on new
Yes.
hydrants as they,
yeah.
at least on the construction hydrants?
So we're gonna get them in the planning phase to where we start having, so like Lock Martin, they're doing one now and they have a hydrant meter. They only pull from the hydrant meter.
Mhm,
Some of these guys I don't even think have hydrant meters.
mhm.
And so I've contacted all of them and we're gonna start getting them to where they get hydrant meters. And we're checking them monthly and stuff like that.
But before they get water, they need water probably, right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and they'll
I don't
hook
know.
into our system that they're connecting to already.
And so is there any way to put a meter wherever that's happening?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And that's where, like that with Lock Martin, we have it in front of Northwest Technologies further down the road. And that's where they filled up their water main. They did all their
Okay.
hookups there. And then that's how luckily they didn't build during the summer, but like Dugan and them, my main complaint is dust.
mhm.
And so they're running
yeah.
water trucks 24/7. And it's unmetered at that.
I know that I don't know how much a lock for a meter is, but when you look at
Yeah.
the choice, spending probably a lot of money and maybe getting a grant, I don't know,
Yeah.
or some kind of, I mean, maybe something like going to Escada Community Foundation or something. I mean, I don't know, but and metering them to make our water last longer.
Yep.
To me, that kind of outweighs the,
Yeah, and
even if it is
that's the plan
expensive.
is trying to secure the fire hydrants
Mhm.
and then everybody's getting a meter and even including, I'm trying to meter the fire department. Because they
Yeah,
go
why
through so
don't they
much.
report to you? They used to report to us every month.
So they do, it's quarterly. I just got it from Terran, but I don't think it's accurate. I
Mhm.
think it was, they said they only use 20,000 gallons.
Yeah,
Which is,
well, that's a number I think we were just putting in there forever. you know.
yeah,
So, but they have a meter on there. Do they have a meter on there over there?
they have a water meter. They don't have anything on the
But they
hydrant.
don't have, didn't that hydrant used to have a meter on it? No?
No, not since I've been here.
Can it?
Yeah, I can put it, yeah, you can put a
I
meter.
mean, I
on
know
it.
that's expensive too, probably, but I know because they get out there and they always do
Oh, yeah.
drills.
Yeah, and that's,
I mean, maybe they just don't know.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to say they're,
no, I don't.
you know.
And I want to stick a meter on it just so we know that'll equate to the equation, trying to save
Mhm.
1% a year to make it outlast. I mean,
and
just
there's
doing
been a
that.
couple house fires, that
Yep.
they probably were taking water from. They should know how much their truck holds, but
Yeah, I looked at it's 4-month numbers and they said they only use
Mhm.
20,000 gallons. I don't,
and is the shop
Sucks.
metered now?
yeah, shop's been metered.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
They go around and flush hydrants too, and they
Yeah.
be reporting
Yep.
to us how often they do that.
Yep. There's
We
just
need
a
to get an estimate on what they're.
Who's doing that?
fire department.
They flush your guys' hydrants, all of them?
Not all of them. I think
No,
just
they
go through-
go, they have a pattern every year to where they'll hit certain hydrants in certain neighborhoods, just so they try to hit them. And so when we blow off hydrants, we go to dead end lines to try to get the stagnant water out. They're just hitting random hydrants and they're blowing off the 4-inch pumper nozzle in the front instead of we're going on the side, so they're just using a lot more
is it
water.
hard to put a meter on and off?
No,
Could they have a meter that when they go do that, they
Yeah,
could put
they
the
could.
meter on and then
Yes.
they can take it off and go on to their next one? I mean,
it would just be training and getting them on board
mhm.
to do that.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of any way.
Oh,
to
yeah, no, I
Meter their water.
completely understand. Me and
Okay.
Sadie have been talking a lot. So,
Do we know where, like, say, when there's a development happening, like we were picking up outside of the development off of an existing fire hydrant?
Yep.
but once the chlorination test is passed and we go live and we're tapped into the city, then we could be just pulling unmetered water out.
Yep.
Is there any way of tracking where the water loss is coming from? Like what area? Would you be able to say, like, if we had a huge water loss, would you be able to say that it came from that side of town because of a meter at some location?
You
that
can do
is
it by
telling you?
reservoir, like, so he can see a water main break happen live.
Really hard to.
But
to
it's-
Take a truck full, but if you
Yep.
get a major main break, you
Mhm.
can see what reservoir is dropping.
Okay, gotcha. But if someone's running trucks all days for dusting to keep dust down, you know, it's hard to track that.
Do you guys put any inline meters in? Like on a new subdivision? Do you guys put like any other meters, like, so you know, okay, going into this subdivision, there's X amount of flow. And that way you can say,
No,
okay, well, there's 1,000 homes in this area.
It's a good
And
idea.
I have, or like, you know, on the next phase.
Yeah.
So as they tap into it, make them put in a meter. So that way, when they do use it, before any house are built, you have it metered there already, and then also it tells you what the future is.
And you can see if flow's going before they get the meters in there too. If you have it from the existing to the new construction. Once they get that line charged and it'll eliminate the ability to pull water out of the system
Yeah.
unknowing to the city.
Well, I think any hydrant metered.
I know years ago.
Yeah.
Chris could tell that, this was when Cascadia Ridge went in, so many, when summer came, because that reservoir, they would all water at 5 o'clock in the morning. So between 5 and 9 in the morning, the reservoir would go, you know, so yeah, you
Part of
can
that
see. Because they all had automatic sprinklers and they were all set in the timer, yeah,
Yes, we were.
oh, that was.
It might be one of those guys. I
Um,
have reduced it. The length of time and the number of times.
Well, I have a bunch more questions on this too, so I think probably should let you go
Are you
through
ready for
your,
questions or, okay,
all right, because
Sorry, I turned the microphone off. You can go ahead with your questions. I think what we really wanted to get your input on is when we get down to the plan for like the stages and alerts of the water curtailment plan.
mine was again more based on the treatment and the loss that we're having right now. So do we know how much it costs to treat 1 million gallons of water per day? Like on average?
I don't, I'd have to figure that out.
Yeah, because I was
Electricity
just,
wise, chemical wise, all that stuff. I have
yeah.
never Gotten that deep into it.
Do you know the number for the amount that you do per year? Because the budget, you would have would you be able to do it on an annual basis and just break it down that way?
yeah,
Production versus
give you an
Cost,
estimate.
spent down
yeah.
there.
Because I was just thinking about that. I was like, you know, it's 118 gallons, 118 million gallons lost last year. And if that's a huge maintenance cost on the treatment there, on the chlorination and everything else, you know, and then obviously you have 37% that's lost revenue as well. Have you guys ever talked to other municipalities on what their leakage percentage is? Is this normal? Is this, you know,
This is-
high?
High end.
It's higher than normal. My daughter is taking an environmental science class. And one of her questions was how much, like, she's like, how much water loss to typical municipalities, you know, experience? And I was like, this is a couple months ago, so it was before we started talking about this. And I thought we were high at like, you know, 15 to 20%. So I was gonna guess, well, we're really high, so maybe 5%, 10%. And it was 20, I think the answer was 20% was average. For, you know, anywhere.
Yeah,
But ours is excessively high, so and part of it is leakage that we can work on. But part of it is this identifying where the water's going and making sure that it's getting paid for. So,
well, kind of where my mind goes is like, okay, if you know we lost so many gallons last year and the cost to treat that is so much, well, what's it gonna cost to do an audit? And hopefully the audit pays for itself, you know, the first year. And then obviously you get more billing as well.
Yeah,
So,
because the customer is paying for that unauthorized water use. Because the usage part of the bill is figured on the treatment cost for the previous year and what you think that increase is gonna be.
Mhm.
So if the treatment cost was $300,000, you say, oh, divided by however many users we have, and that's how much a gallon they have to pay.
mhm.
So it's getting paid for. But it's just, the problem is that we aren't being able to use it.
Yeah.
But maybe rates will go down when they
Yeah.
figure out.
Be nice to get code enforcement involved in the summertime, everywhere that has an excavation permit that's pulled, that they do regular stops at those locations. And don't just pull up to the site, stay away from the site like OSHA does, and watch for a little bit, see where they're filling up at. If they're running water trucks in there, see where, you know, wait there long enough. Don't just pull up and ask them, hey, where'd you get your water from? Sit there and wait and see where they're going to fill. And then do we have penalties in place is there a consequence if you're stealing the water? Where you make it cost prohibitive where it's a lot more expensive to steal the water if you get caught than it is to buy it from the city off a metered connection?
I think it would just be under the general penalty, wouldn't it? Because it is illegal to.
$500 a
It's
day.
theft. But I think it's $500 a day. Until you go to court, you know, so then you would go to court.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how we do that anymore, but you would go to do we have?
Or
court
they
for that?
they would just pay it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't, if they didn't dispute it,
Do
right?
we have code enforcement court though?
Mhm.
Who does, is still judge?
We're in transition
Oh.
because Judge Meany just decided to retire. So we're
Okay.
getting a different judge.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, so the way our code is written for violations for water, which would be theft of water, is it 500, no more than $500 a day for each violation. Or by imprisonment for a period of not more than 6 months,
There you
or
go.
by both fine and imprisonment. And where applicable, the city shall be entitled to seek restitution for the cost of terminating and repairing any damage done to the system.
Oh,
How many gallons do you get for $500?
oh,
A lot, okay, more than you could pump into trucks in a day.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The $500 would be more than enough to cover the cost of the water for that day.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. We know where they've got the excavation permit, early excavation permits, or any active 1200C permits in the city, and then just have them periodically go run and check. Find out real quick. I think once you addressed it a couple times with the people that are doing it, and there's a penalty associated with it, then
Especially after you issued them a meter to be using.
yeah.
If they're not, then you can give to them.
How many spots do you guys meter? And not at the, how do you come up with these numbers on? Obviously you're doing a total for all the residential meters and everything else, but there's nothing else like down a street or neighborhood? You're just coming off of, you're doing a comparison from the tank and then the treatment plant and.
Master meter, so as soon as the water leaves the treatment plant, it goes through the master meter. And that's what we record daily. And then all the gals here, they do the water meters and
Sold,
Mhm.
figure that out. yeah.
and then the difference.
But there's nothing else that's like in the middle. Like you guys don't meter anything from the reservoirs.
From the treatment plant to the customer.
So I would like, think in my mind, think like
The reservoirs.
break it
have
into small
SCADA
chunks.
though, like you know how much is going out of the reservoirs, right? They aren't metered, but
We trim the levels of them.
SCADA, yeah.
What
That
would that,
would be, that's a good idea, putting a meter coming out of the reservoirs. So you'd know how much is coming out of each reservoir, so that if you have
Well, you know
loss,
what
There-
part
have your
of
losses,
town
you can
they-
isolate what part of town it
Yeah.
would be.
Exactly, and narrow it down. Cause like right now, if you think about it, like, well, you just have this giant of like unknown of where's it coming from, where at. If you start doing these smaller meters and flows, then you can say, okay, you know, this is part of your, your investigation, I guess. Yeah, part of your audit, but
Mhm.
and nothing else, just good to know. And better visibility. And then the only thing else I have was, again, like, and it's not really the same thing here, but you guys have 1.9 million gallons of storage currently,
Yeah,
and currently the peak is 1.5.
yes.
So you have 25%, less than 25%. And how many new homes are supposed to be projected here in the next?
We have
couple
less
years?
than
Over
25.
1,000.
What do you meaning by that? I got lost in
But the
that.
1.9 doesn't include the new reservoir. It's
Right.
right.
Okay.
There is a new reservoir
So
going in
be built next
next year.
quarter one,
Yeah.
25.
I thought they were gonna upgrade it
500,000,
from
but
2 half millions to 1.
yeah.
We
So-
were gonna put in a 500,000 gallon tank and the engineers are looking at, so.
Doing a
putting in
one?
million.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Uh-huh.
good.
Uh-huh.
My
Just
thought
the-
was just again going through like, how fast is this gonna be a major issue?
Mhm.
Cause if we're at 25%
Mm.
of capacity left, then it's not a lot considering how much growth we still have slotted in developments. So,
And if you look at, you all have this is a big version of it, but you have that, so you can
Yeah.
see how much water production is happening in the summer months. On a daily basis. In the winter months, it goes down significantly. So a lot of that's outdoor, which is still, which first world country, you should be able to, water your plants and wash your car and fill up a wading pool. But some of that could be used more conservatively to help us get a little farther down the road.
So I had a question on using the population for figuring out how much water use is. But have you guys talked to the school? Because the school use is one of the higher, maybe they are the highest water user in the city, probably. But their increasing students aren't just in the city population. The county that's increasing, they might be having 500 new students in 5 years coming from outside the city limits. So the school usage, institutional usage is not only affected by our city growth, but the county growth in the school district. And another thing, have you talked to the school? Because I know that they want to go to year-round school. So how would that impact our water system in the summer if the school was going to school in the summer in 2 years down the road?
I had
They're
heard
already
that.
opening earlier in August.
Mhm.
They're opening they're opening in August this year. But a couple of years ago, they had discussed when they went to the 4-day week wanting to go to all year school. And I know they might not be talking about it now, but what if it comes up next year? And then, so then in the summer, schools open and in the summertime.
I don't think you're gonna have an issue with that.
We did talk with Amy
Teachers
about,
working there.
how, so the graph right now,
There'd be less water usage with students sitting in a classroom than with people. It seems, there's two variables, because when school gets out, kids go home and our water usage goes up and the temperature goes up. Is it because the temperature went up, or is it because the kids are all at home running the water all day? And it's probably because the temperature went up, but I don't know.
yeah, we did
If you're
discuss,
getting-
with the Kern McLeod that we expect if the school bond passes, that we're gonna see the institutional water usage percentage increase because now they're gonna have another building.
Yeah, but it's the kids are still coming from the same buildings.
Yeah, but now you have a whole other building, so you're gonna have, like the landscaping
Oh,
and all
sure.
of the other. And then if they do end up building the sports complex out there, all that also will be watered.
It's
And so
already
that,
built.
what?
I was told it was already built.
Is it already irrigated? I don't know if it's
Yeah,
irrigated.
I'm not sure if it's fully irrigated, but
There's something out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might just ask the
Question.
school what their percentage of growth has been outside the city limits. It might not be enough to worry about, but I know their kids are coming in and they might not only be from the city limit growth, they might be from houses outside the city limits. I don't know what that is. And I had one more question on page 14. The 5-year benchmark, it said, there was a little part, it said the city council will consider raising rates for consumption of water above a reasonable base monthly quantity. I wanted to know what that meant.
So that's the summer rates. So you'll have, let's say the average monthly household usage is 7,000 gallons.
Mhm.
And so above 7,000 gallons, there's kind of a premium rate. So, you'll be charged additional usage above that, whatever the council determines, or you
Oh,
look at the
okay.
data and see
So
whatever
that's
the average.
new. That's a new rate.
It would be a
that
new
they
rate.
don't have now. Okay.
Yeah, they don't have now. That would be, we would discuss it with Steve Donovan, who did the
Yeah.
rate study. And he would look at our usage, help determine where those levels should be, look at comparables from other cities, and then present it to the council to add that as an extra
Mhm.
usage rate for
Okay.
those peak
That's a good
times.
idea. On the table 8 on page 20. It was the projected 20-year water system demand projections until 2043. And so they were still using the 38% unaccounted usage in that table, right? When they were figuring the demand, the annual average. Like they didn't reduce that to 20% in 5 years because we might get it down to 20%.
Which
Do
page
you
are you
understand
on?
what I'm saying?
Which
Yeah.
It's
page
kind of
are you on?
confusing. Page 20.
Because on page 22, I think is what you're talking about.
Oh, it's 20 on mine, but
But go to 22.
I don't have one. I only printed out the ones I had questions on.
Oh, on 22, it
Mhm.
shows, it's a 20-year water system demand projections, assuming leakage reductions from 32 to
Oh,
15.
okay. So that went past 2043 then?
It went to 2046.
Oh, it only gave 3 years if you got it down to 20.
Well, assuming 1% per year.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, it goes from 32 to 31. Yeah, it just goes 1% per year down to
2 point.
so if you look at that, that might answer your question. So that would mean the one that you're looking at on page 20. I guess that would be just without the current, without the.
That's okay. And as long, I didn't realize too later. And then my last question is on page 21. It says, if there has been theft or irrigation of water through the bulk water sales program, eliminating the program will lower overall system demand, but only if water will not be supplied to farms through paid water connections. Well, if it was through paid water connections, it wouldn't be unaccounted for, right? That was confusing to me.
There's such a thing.
Page was that on?
Oh, I see.
That
Maybe
means-
they're saying that if they stop them from using, then they would be paying it.
Right,
Okay,
if you make them pay for it through a different, yeah.
okay. Thank you. Oh, and this map, it doesn't show over the bridge as part of our water system, but it is because we have water over there already. So they might want to darken that little area.
Over on River Lake.
Yeah, because it's, the dark area was, now I don't see what it said it was. Water service area, and they didn't have that as dark. But it is our water service area because we have.
They have
And
water.
If you look on page 8.
Well, I know it shows
there's-
lines over
is- Yeah,
there,
it shows the
but just
lines.
this, I think, should
Okay.
be corrected because that is part of our water service area. All I had.
And what I'm interested in is feedback on the water reduction. What bench, when you hit a certain level. And we have to implement water
I thought those looked
restrictions.
good.
You think they're okay? Because if you look on these are and we'll probably need to put something like this online so people can look it up and track it, every day when you turn in how much, or every couple of days or once a week, we'll add in the next 5 days so people can see where we're at. Because last year, there would have been only one time that we hit 1.4 or higher 3 days in a row. So it doesn't seem like it's excessive because last year there would have been only one time we had to hit a level 1 restriction. And then this year, I'm guessing it will be more.
So, yeah, we had Chris, Dawn and I met last week to look at the data to see where we would want to adjust those numbers because we felt the 1.2 MGD that was already in the plan that Amy suggested was probably a little low. Because 1.2 MGD would be pretty much all summer.
Yeah.
And so we adjusted that to 1.4 MGD.
Melanie, why do you think this summer will be a lot higher?
I just think there's 100 more houses.
Oh.
Yeah,
oh.
but so I'm guessing that it would be higher. Unless the HOA, like Campanella agreed last year to say, hey, we won't fine people if they don't water their lawn, partway through. The Cascadia Ridge said, no, we want them to water their lawns. We want green lawns. And so, assuming that everybody's still gonna try to water their lawn, there's 100 more houses, I'm guessing we're gonna hit higher numbers this year. But if we do, and we hit that level one, the first, one of those, things is that they can't be required. And I think there's some people it's really important to, they're gonna wanna water their lawns. But there's a lot of people that don't mind having a brown lawn for July and August and half of September. And they would prefer to save the money versus paying for, or they'll be more conservative. And if it gets a little brown, then they'll green it up a little bit. They won't be like just flooding it. And so I think that this could be helpful with kind of more of a voluntary thing, but
I know that the city, when a subdivision goes in, if they're gonna have HOA, the city reviews that and approves that as part of the process.
No, it goes to the county.
You're talking
Well,
about
we
the
used
covenant?
to,
The covenant goes to the county.
well, we used to approve it because I used to have to sign up on it, but I don't
I
know
haven't
what
had-
changed then.
I haven't had to sign anything on that. So, but the last 2 years, I don't know, those have happened before. I would have been signing off on a HOA.
Huh.
I don't
Like to
think
get rid of
Any new
those, I know
neighborhoods
that.
went in, it's just been add-ons
Uh,
since you've been gone. There's not been like
oh.
a new.
Okay, well, I don't know what the process is anymore, but we used to, our attorney used to look at the HOA
okay,
and say, yeah, the
that
city,
would be
the
great.
city approves of this. And then, I was thinking if that's still happening, what they should do is have them add a part in there saying they have to comply with our
Mhm.
restrictions in the HO, so then people aren't worried that they're gonna be fined by their HOA.
Mhm.
Or even suggest to the HOA, could you not have such a restriction on green lawns or, anyway,
Yeah.
but if we aren't looking at them.
Well,
anymore.
and once this goes, so the process will be that this will go before the city council with your guys' suggestions for edits.
Oh,
And then it'll go to an ordinance and we'll update our water ordinance, and that water ordinance will supersede the HOA's rules.
or maybe during the approval period of subdivisions,
Mhm.
the council can bring it up then.
Yes.
Yes, we approve it. Your HOA needs to say whatever and have just a script that they read the same every time that it.
And
complies.
planning had talked about that because I'm not sure.
It can be
I-
a condition of approval.
Yes, that's
Which
what
we do sign off on.
yes, we were,
Yes.
planning was gonna put it into conditions of
Okay.
approvals for new subdivisions who
Mhm.
are gonna have a HOA. Should go in all of them, because how do you know if they're gonna have a HOA
Yeah.
until later, right? So that was kind of our workaround, because we were under the impression that it just goes to the county, and I never saw it.
Okay,
But probably because we haven't had new ones come in.
Yeah.
In the last couple of years.
I think we could just outlaw HOAs and.
There we go.
Yeah, that'd be good. We grandfather that back in.
So we did do a couple, I know I printed this off, so Gary can't read it. We did a few updates. One is, so besides it saying 1.4 MGD, it says 80% water production capacity or 1.4 MGD, because we felt like that was important to put that in there, that it was not capacity, storage capacity. We're talking about water production capacity. And then we moved up the news release and newsletters to stage 1. That should happen just every summer anyways, that you're talking about how you can conserve water. And we changed it so that we're halting watering lawns on public property. Because if we stop watering the flower baskets, then they'll all die, and that's kind of a waste of our money. So we moved the flower baskets to stage 2. And then reducing the hours and days for the splash pad with the idea that this will be in the duration of how long this plan is going to last. So that'll also add it to stage 1.
Other thoughts?
The trigger for coming back out of that is 3 days consecutive. How would that have looked in the one time it happened last summer? I was just trying to look at how long it would have stayed.
We're halfway
instituted.
down the August list.
Hit it, 1.5, 1.4.
And there wasn't
It was-
spikes back up at all.
3 after that.
So it
Nope.
comes straight out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the third day
Didn't
of
last.
hitting it, we would have implemented it, and then following that, it was below the level for the next 3 days and ongoing, so we would have come out, it would have been just very short.
I was just trying to measure, was it bouncing one day every few days, right? Keep it going.
I don't know, it'll kind of be maybe trial and error for as we're like bumping right up against those levels. I mean, and not, unless we just blow past them. If we blow past them, then it'll be easy to bring it back, but if we're just kind of right there. It gives us some certainty, though, that the plants will be able to produce the amount that we need.
Yeah, by restricting it.
Mhm.
Hard
Oh.
part's gonna be just educating the citizens to what level we're at
Mhm.
and what to do. So just giving them a fine or whatever.
Right. Some education to start.
And then we updated the stage 2, the same thing for 90% of production capacity or water production reaches 1.5 MGD for 3 consecutive days. And then we added a couple things to the actions. One is we'll close the splash pad. And then the other was no construction or non-emergency fire water usage. So non-essential uses prohibited.
That was at stage 2 or stage 3?
That's in stage 2.
Beach stage 1. All I can say is good thing the park SDC's changed on what you can use them for.
And then for stage 3, the only change that we made for the trigger was to add that word or. And then we did some changes. We removed water rationing and system time restrictions because we have no way to monitor or enforce that. So we don't want to put something in the plan that we can't actually do.
Water rationing and what else?
The system time restrictions. So that would be, you can't use water between this time and this time of the day.
Water for like non-essential stuff?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
How do other people regulate that? Do you know?
I don't know. Yeah.
In Bend, I think they had, look up Bend's, I can't remember. It was like they could only, one part of town could go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the other part of town was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday or something. It was something to that effect. So it would be, I mean, if you drive by and somebody's watering during the day, but I don't know, how much manpower do we want to expend on that? And then how many people do you want tattling on neighbors? So if we can make it, I don't know, so that people aren't gonna have to report, although people probably will, won't have to report each other and that we don't have to have it. We could drive around it a couple times a day and check things out, but
That's how most towns do
yeah.
it if they're gonna enforce it.
I haven't asked how they enforce it, but that's
Uh-huh.
the only way I could see. You have to observe it.
And would the complaint go to code enforcement? If someone had a complaint about someone using water?
So, another thing we added in is that if they're watering, then Public Works can go shut it off.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So it would go to Dawn.
But like if I wanted to call and complain about my neighbor.
Yeah. It would not go to code enforcement because Amy's only here 2 days a week, so it would probably go to
That's what I
Dawn.
was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And Public Works is only here Four. So we still have a 3-day gap, but if it was a significant issue, the person on call could come in and take
Mhm.
care of it.
If we get to the point where we're in stage 3 critical, I'm sure we're gonna have.
Yeah.
I mean, we have in there that there's spot checking meters for compliance, and so I'm sure that that would be increased time for Public Works to be going out and making sure that people are not using water.
Are all the meters have to be physically checked manually, or they have systems that send back to you guys?
We just have to be within a certain range of the meter to see if it's working. But for us to go and shut a meter off, we have to go out there and do it manually.
Sure, but how often does like it report back to you, or how does it report back to you? Drive by down the
Yeah, we
street.
drive
every
down
street.
it. It's takes about, we can read town in like an hour, hour and a half. And we just drive down the street and it has radio or I think it's radio
And you do that once a month?
once a month. We can do it multiple times a week. I mean, it doesn't, we can do it as many times, we can do it every day if we needed to.
My thing is on how you can, like, how do you enforce this?
Yeah.
And what if it can, do you get all sorts of data besides just the reading? Or
Yes.
do you, so
Yeah.
you get like hourly usage?
Yeah, so we can. Yeah, I don't know if you get hourly usage. I have to ask Taryn. I know that when we go out every month. And then they read it, they can check to see if a bill was higher than the month prior or the year prior for that month. To where that's how we find out a lot of homeowners' water leaks is we let them know, hey, you got a really high bill compared to this time last year, this time last month. And so then that triggers our guys to go out there, monitor the leak, and then we can find out. Hour by hour, I don't know how smart the meters are. I have to, that's a upfront.
Yeah, I don't think so. That's part of why we pulled the system time restrictions is because we can't monitor that, like,
Is that technology out there? Where you can do it?
I would imagine.
And obviously, you know, you're.
I mean, it would be, yeah. So we looked into it before to where we could read meters from here, but it was, I don't remember the cost difference and how much it was gonna cost, but it was a lot of money. So
Well, how much does it cost to redo your water plant? And to increase
a lot of money,
to the 600,000 gallons of water?
yeah.
And if you can have it shut off, or you can track it to where it says, okay, you're not allowed to use more than 20 minutes of water per hour. Or
So I
you can have something on your different stages when you hit a certain capacity.
I think to have, if you're talking about remote shut off. If that's kind of what you're leaning towards.
Mostly monitoring, but
Monitoring, I think we could probably do cheaper than, but like remote. We looked into remote shut off for problem meters, because we have problem meters in town to where they're just a constant. They're on the shut off list every month. I'm pretty sure those were around like $750 more than the $250 water meter that we had. So you're thinking going in that respect of doing that, but that we'd have to have the other system in place, $1,000 of water meter per 2,050 households that are 3/4 inch. Services.
So I think like maybe what Scott was thinking too, like, let's say we're in critical.
Yeah.
So probably everyone's at work because of that. And so could you drive through the city and like say to the system of the meter reading, anyone that's using more than that has, I don't know how you would do it, because you wouldn't have a reading to base it on, I guess. It was like, could it print out the people that were using excessive water that day, but you wouldn't have anything to base it on because you wouldn't have read it yesterday, I guess.
That we would have to. That'd be the
Yeah.
only way we could do it is reading. So
Daily.
we
could
talked about
probably
reading.
observe.
Yeah.
We
so,
talked
yeah.
about reading twice a week, bi-weekly water readings. And then
But you
comparing,
probably would be observing if someone was watering
Yeah.
outside or washing in their cars.
Or
Yeah.
their sprinklers are going and it's running into the street.
Is the
'cause it's
car
too
wash
much.
listed on this anywhere? Like, at some point, the car wash and the
Mm.
laundromat have to shut down?
Mm.
we,
I mean,
yeah,
they
we,
use a lot of water.
we do have, we have no vehicle washing is a trigger
Oh.
in stage 2. And I wasn't sure. Does that mean that we can tell the car wash that they have to close down?
Yeah,
look
that's
at
what I
that.
was wondering.
I don't know about that.
And I think that's probably going to be a question for Peter is if we can you tell him that because it says no vehicle washing, that we're shutting down the car wash. I don't know.
I would like to spend a lot more time as the council, from the council side of things, what my view on that would just be really wanting to crack into where we're losing the losses instead of cracking down on
Yeah.
people so hard.
Yeah.
If there's a way in that system, in the water system, to be able to create a grid
Mhm.
for meters so that you can, divide the city into 12 sections and have a meter that services each of those sections so that you could see regular usage. And then when you went by each of those and you took a reading of all those and you had these irregular spikes and then you went around to all those areas, you should be able to identify what area of town the extra usage is coming from, because it'd be irregular, each meter would be a percentage of the total.
Yeah.
So say it's using 12% in this section, well, now that's jumped up to 22% of the water usage. What is the cost involved in being able to, because to your point, it just, that's the answer, is getting rid of all the loss. Because if we didn't have the loss, it wouldn't even be a conversation. All these
Right.
triggers wouldn't even be a point.
Yeah.
So what does it take with it growing, and we're assuming a 1% decrease. I think that if we got meters in place and we're able to identify it quicker where the problem was coming from, I think we could get the usage, the loss down a lot quicker than 1% a year. But we'd have to do the work up front to just be able to come up with a system for it. Is it all different size mains going all over? I'm not very familiar with the water system in the city, but
The one map on there shows that we have everything from 2-inch to 12-inch. 12-inch
Yeah.
is the biggest. Getting meters on it would be,
is there a single backbone? Or is there a backbone to the water system that goes through the whole city, or is it multiple backbones that are feeding off of that? Okay.
multiple loop
I
systems.
mean, I think our recommendation as our committee would be to the council to do that, just that, to come up with a plan to
Yeah.
try to monitor,
Make
to
it-
meter enough areas that you could maybe make it easier to figure out at least where to look for it.
Yeah.
And that would be a council decision because they'd have to have
Yeah.
a plan that's sent to them. But I think we all would agree that that's kind of the solution.
So there's a leak detection program, and it uses sound.
Yeah, acoustics.
And that's part of, that's in the plan right now, would be to move forward with that leak detection. It does not, I mean, we're kind of going off of, well, the older areas in town are probably more likely to have leaks. So that's where you start. It's not like, we don't have a grid that say exactly where, but that's in the plan, is to do that leak detection program, which uses, Don could explain it better than I, but
It just uses acoustics. You go on, or you can put in an inert gas, right? And then you can detect the gas where it's leaking out by sound, but it's all acoustic.
But I think we agree with Don that the leaks isn't as much a problem as maybe the theft of water. And I think
think-
these meters would help.
That's the difference between some of the other cities and us. We have 2 types of water mains in town. There's a little bit of a third, but it's asbestos concrete and C900. It doesn't leak, it blows up. And so it's the service laterals that are there could be leaking because there's years of copper pipe put in the ground and improperly bedded. But I think theft is the biggest issue. I think we can get a lot of that lost water back.
Yeah.
But at the same token, the water, say we meter it, they're still gonna need the water, they're still gonna use the water. And it's still gonna put us into that same multi-step process.
Right, they would
You're just
still.
gonna
It's,
take
it's,
water
it's just gonna be metered. We're gonna
Yeah.
know where it's coming from,
Yeah.
but we're still gonna have the 1.5 million gallon
Mhm.
days.
And people might be more frugal with it too,
And
if they're
that-
paying for the
I think,
water.
yes.
They'd be more diligent about how they use it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
If you're getting free water, you just blown it, you don't really
but
care.
the problem is we require them to use dust suppression on those developments right now. And so. yeah,
What if,
Well, they just need to pay for it.
DEQ requires
the
them.
DEQ
This,
requires.
this
them
might be
Yes.
to
in a
clean air
different
act.
plan, because I think a lot of these things are probably, like, I had some questions on. This proposal doesn't discuss anything on trying to increase water rights, get a credit for water from the water going back out from the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
Or other sources, because that would be not in this plan, it would be in the water master plan, correct? And then, because one of those things is wells. I know that there was a well out on Mike Park's property that I don't think we had them get rid of because we wanted to use it if we could. And also Bill Highlands has some wells. Have we thought about using the well water for,
Yes.
the bulk water sales?
Well, not for bulk water sales. Part of the issue is, at least on Bill Highland's property, when we talked to him, he might have the well, but it doesn't have the water rights.
Just for commercial use, you have to have.
Yeah, you have,
Water
you
rights.
have to have the water rights.
Mm.
So we would have to buy the water rights from, or get water rights from the state. Even for well usage.
So is that hard? I mean,
Yes.
A lot of
Yeah.
cities have wells for their well water.
So part of the problem is right now, the state has kind of realized that there's more water rights than there is water available. So they are completely revamping the system in the way they issue water rights right now. So it'll be considerably harder for us going forward in order to get water rights. And there's kind of like I don't want to necessarily say a moratorium, but they're kind of not issuing new water rights right now while they revise the rules.
Okay. I think we're getting into the master plan and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and that's part of it that it will come back.
Yeah.
I know that we had
Yeah.
talked with Amy when we get all the way down to the end of this. Because if we increase the population, we're not gonna be within our water rights. So if we increase the population, that table on page 22 that
Mhm.
shows, you know, our water rights and the water usage, we will have exceeded that within the planning window if we increase the population. And so then we're gonna have to have, and on page 23, it says analysis of alternate sources, which right now doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
Because we weren't required as long as we're within our water rights, but because we expect the population to increase faster than they have said in here, then we're gonna have to put something in there of an analysis of alternate sources, and that would be either purchasing water rights, potentially negotiating with some of the downstream water purveyors to purchase water rights, or have wells, yeah, so,
But you still have to purchase water rights if you had wells.
yes, well,
I have a quick, can I sidetrack us for just a minute?
Yeah.
I have to leave because I have to go to a meeting, but I wanted to, on another note, I was waiting till the end, but it looks like what we're gonna try to do as we are adding a new committee, trying to revise any, make sure that the committees are meeting what the council is wanting them to do and the need that we have for citizen involvement, for feedback, like this kind of feedback that we're getting. Potentially, and I should say probably, I'm writing it up right now. We're gonna add a couple of positions to the, and this is, council hasn't reviewed this yet, so this is maybe just a recommendation I'm gonna propose. Adding a couple of positions to the planning commission and then decommissioning this commission but opening up some spots for those of you who'd want to continue this to move to the planning commission so you'd be actually looking at land use, things coming through, and then if we have infrastructure review, the planning commission could also do that. And so it's kind of just, it's been bubbling back here for a while and it's kind of coming to the front right now because I'm bringing code recommendations based on what we talked about at council previously for commissions. And so I wanted to throw that out to you, and I can't stay too long to talk about it, but I feel like that would hopefully, like, it would reduce one committee. It would but open up some spots where you could be involved in a little bit more than just getting a report.
So who would do this kind of review? Which committee would do this?
That would be, it would go to the planning commission.
So the planning commission would have had a meeting just on this? along with
Probably
all their other
not just
duties?
on this. They might have either had it just on that, depends on what comes up. They could have, this could be one of the
Mhm.
agenda items
And-
to review.
What other committee has your utilities sitting at the table?
We don't have utilities sitting at the table.
That's why I thought this one was really good, because when things come before,
Mhm.
Scott and Beth and maybe someday a Comcast person
Mhm.
has just really good ideas and to
Mhm.
look at these and like, how's it gonna affect your company
Mhm.
if we do this certain project,
Well-
and he can tell us early, PGE
Mhm.
can tell us early.
And we do connect with staff. That's what I was thinking for the staff members from the utilities. They talk with our, with Dawn as things come up, as projects are coming up. And so they would still be in the loop. It would just be like if a couple of you don't want to be on planning commission and don't apply to that to be there, then you could pick a different committee, but it wouldn't necessarily be specific like this. So that's just one option that I'm gonna propose. So I just wanted to throw that out there,
Well, then we don't need to talk about the next thing on the agenda.
which is what what you would do if you, I don't know if the council's gonna go for this or not, so. And we can talk about it more later, but,
I don't think you should expand the planning commission,
okay.
but that's just my 2 cents. I think 7 people is hard enough to get. You put it to 9, then you need 5, and then, I mean, there's. Most committees go towards the least amount of numbers to get anything done, but
Yeah,
I mean, that's up to the council. I just don't see a 9-person planning commission for a city our size, but
okay, well,
I mean, cause any one of us could apply for. One of those positions
Right.
that's already on the planning commission.
true, as they come, we
Yeah.
could leave it, we could just leave it 7, and as they come open, you could apply for those.
Yeah.
I was just thinking
Yeah.
for a smoother transition. There could be a couple spots that would open up, but it would make it extra large, so.
I might suggest that you have a spot, at the planning commission meetings for. Cascade, Reliance, and as a, what do they call them? They aren't part of the planning commission, they
Right.
don't have voting right, but they're involved in, they get the packets, there's a little table set up. So they
Advisors.
can comment,
Yeah,
I mean,
advisor.
yeah,
Mhm.
I just think that might.
That might be a good
That might be
idea.
a solution, cause I'm just worried about not having them on the table
Mhm,
for things, not so much this committee, but any committee. I
mhm,
think that's what was nice about this committee. It was kind of set up to have them involved,
mhm, mhm.
so.
Okay,
We might just
yeah,
think about
I'll
that.
Consider, yeah, I will look at that and.
Be a big plus for, I mean, having utilities. I think they would be a bigger benefit being at a planning commission
Yeah.
meeting.
'Cause then it's-
If it does transition to that, there's so many things that they could forecast for stuff that
Mhm.
we might not be thinking about when approving subdivisions or asking questions about where things are at on infrastructure before we approve something that's coming in. I think it'd be
And
a
has the
huge
planning
benefit.
commission, aren't they during the day now? Which is good.
Which would
'cause
work,
then-
yeah. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not gonna be there.
Okay,
Anyway, that would be my suggestion, not
that's what I-
increase it, but maybe make a room.
add a couple
yeah.
non-voting
Yeah.
member spots for local
Mhm,
utilities.
mhm,
That's a good idea.
mhm,
I knew I'd bring it up to you and you guys would have a good,
mhm.
good recommendation.
Because quite frankly, I don't care that this committee leaves. I do think that we've had a lot of good suggestions, and like this, I think there was a
Especially
lot of good
lately.
input.
Mhm.
But if you're gonna get that from some other committee, that's
Mhm.
the best thing. Because the more eyes you should have on something,
Yeah.
the better.
Yeah.
And this committee was always easy because it didn't take much time and it was
Mhm.
during the day and.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, so I mean, in that regard, we could keep it as well, but I think I'm gonna throw that proposal to the council and we'll see. But I have to leave. I'm
Okay.
sure, I mean, I don't know if you guys are on a time schedule either, but thanks for letting me interrupt.
Yep. Melanie.
Okay, see ya.
Now I'll just have to bug Chris and Dawn more.
So it sounds like we're all in consensus for the next agenda item. Okay, was there anything else that you guys wanted to suggest or edit for the water conservation plan? Any questions, suggestions, edits?
Do you guys have an idea of how much water is sold on the bulk? Bulk metering and,
It's minimal.
I mean, like what's the
Um,
percentage? I mean, is it?
We had a couple months last summer were like. I think one of them was like 400 something thousand, or it might have been 500,000. And that
That
was
someone
just-
actually bought.
No. No.
That's water that's pulled through the bulk meter.
It
That
was just pulled through our bulk meter, but not
Oh.
reported.
Oh,
It's not all,
So
I want to say we sold
it kept-
300,000 and then lost
no.
about 2.
Yeah, we lost 300.
Oh, we lost 300.
Hundred,
Okay.
or 311,000 gallons.
So they were actually taking it from the metered.
Yeah,
Yes.
they were
But
taken from the
just-
meter, not
Not reporting.
reporting.
And because that's recorded, that's not as part of that graph that shows
So
the
that
water
wasn't
loss.
part of the
That
30.
wasn't part of that, no.
Wow.
That's why we did away with bulk water.
Where I kind of go with it is, you know, your treatment plant has 1.9, or at least we have 1.9 million gallons of storage. And we still want to offer bulk, but do we care if it's treated? And if we have a pump that can pump it up but not treat it, and, you know, say, okay, let's offer bulk water, you still have to
Good
do this
idea.
stuff. It's just not gonna be a treated water, because who cares if it's treated if we're putting it on dirt?
But it
or
would
gravel.
still count as part of our water
Yeah.
rights.
It'd still
taking
count
it
as part of our water
outright.
rights. In that, maybe we could potentially, if they're using it to put it on dirt, we could potentially use the effluent
Of the new.
of the new
Oh,
water
yeah.
plant.
Yeah,
So,
It's talked about when we were going over this.
That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
yeah,
but just trying to think of like other ways of, why do we have to have everything treated? Like,
Put it
especially
on-
for lawns, like, why do we need lawns to be treated?
Mhm.
Your grass doesn't care.
Did it get addressed how, I know that there was a challenge with the county when they were asking for bulk water and it got refused to them. I think they may have just called in and someone was just saying no to every bulk
Yes.
water. Do we need to do anything on the council level to make sure that when the county's out here servicing the road, using it for the roads in our school district in our area, that they're able to have access to the water or?
no, I think that was just we had to discuss that with the staff. I don't think the council needs to address it.
Okay, so they can, when they need it in this area for work being done in this area, they're able to pull.
Yeah,
Okay.
similar like when the subdivisions are building their roads, they're able to access the bulk water.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But when local companies are filling everyone's pools, they need to pay for it, right?
Well, that wasn't even allowed in our code as it is, because you could not sell water that you had purchased from us.
And so we were having truck after truck after truck. And so,
Mhm.
not anymore.
Yeah, okay, good. Do you care that we don't have a committee?
I don't care. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. My suggestion, I talked to Melanie about this a few weeks ago, I think, a month ago. Is maybe we talk and try to do something like during budget time. And instead of meeting quarterly, let's go and have a longer meeting and do something where, okay, like, if we do a pre-budget, post-budget. So, okay, we're gonna go into it. What should you guys budget for this next year? And then what afterwards, okay, what got axed and what got removed, and then call it a good, like that. To meet every quarter, to get, you know, status updates. I think we're fine. You know.
And I think that even like on something like this, if you emailed it to leave Scott and Beth as your contacts and just email it to them and let them get back to you with recommendations. I mean, leave them on your mailing list. Do you have any problem with this?
No.
Disappearing?
No.
Who's online, Gary? Gary, you've been on here the longest. Any problems?
Gary just popped off. He said he
Oh.
had to leave
Oh,
like right
okay.
at 1. He had an appointment, so.
I think we're good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, oh, it's me.
It's you, yes.
Okay, I don't think we have anything else. Does anyone have a report they want to do and commissioner report? No? Okay,
Great.
this meeting might be the last and this is adjourned.
All right.
You.